I'm going to point out before I start this video, I like making this series a lot. I'm sorry that it's been a while for the last upload, but you'll be able to see why it took forever in this video. There was a lot on my hands and so much to add that I decided to start fresh and make this video from scratch. Another disclaimer is that this will definitely be my longest video in the series by far. There's a lot to talk about with these two, and as much as I was excited to make this video for you all, over time I realized I was making it for myself. You'll notice there are two cats in this video. This is the first time for the Stray Cat Spotlight series, and we're only in episode 4, baby. It would be weird to do these cats separate. They're almost like a joint team. It all started when me and my moderator, who you guys may know as Mookie Kitty, and yes, that's his actual birth name in real life, were driving home from somewhere. We ended up passing some warehouses where I jokingly said to Mookie that those warehouses looked like the perfect place for stray cats to hang out.
The thing is, he was right.
I noticed two cats run up to my car, not just normal cats, but they were actually kittens. It's not the first time we've seen kittens on the channel, but these two were the most social I've ever seen, even from a first encounter. Obviously there's Cookies and Cream, the ones that we're going to be talking about in this video, and we'll be talking about them a lot. Then there's their mother, who chat named Peony, like the flower. We also discovered later, in a different setting, that there was a third kitten called Milkshake, who was older than the other two kittens but still super young. We didn't know it at the time, but Milkshake, despite only being around 8 months, was pregnant. Then lastly, there's the father, that Twitch didn't get to name yet, who is the shyest and really enjoys catnip. You can see all the cats here take after their dad. I did a stream here because this was important for the channel. Every colony we feed has been monitored and most of the cats have been TNR'd, which stands for Trap, Neuter, Return, you already know. But it seemed like none of these cats had their notch. And obviously the colony was expanding, and we did our first ever dual poll on the channel. Chat came up with really cute names like Peanut Butter and Jelly or Yin and Yang, but ultimately Cookies and Cream won the poll. I originally didn't think much of the name, especially when chat was deciding who would be Cookies and who would be Cream, but a few days later I realized it was the perfect name for these two, based on their appearance and possible Chick-fil-A sponsorship. Cookies is the female and was the most noticeable in my opinion because she seemed fearless. Even from the beginning, she would always run up to me and be vocal, almost like she wasn't afraid at all. She was also very feral. In fact, here is a clip of her eating a lizard. Cookie's name fits her so well as she is recognized by her circular markings. Same goes for Cream, the male. His markings were more wavy and vibrant. Cream was known to be the shyer one. He would still come out to eat if he was hungry enough, but didn't play or get too close. We ended up doing another stream here after feeding other cat colonies where we had a laser pointer and played with them. It's also the stream that chat named Milkshake. You can see there's a trend here. It was then that I realized that these cats were young enough and social enough to be socialized and looked after, so I made the choice to take them in. If you follow the streams, you know my family doesn't like animals. I have no idea how they had me as a child. So it took a good amount of convincing, but it ended up working. So next came the trapping. Another feeder actually gave me advice that kittens are pretty naive and will go for food even if it's in a carrier. I didn't believe this initially, but wanted to try it anyways. It worked. Surprisingly, the first cat we got was Cream, who was hungry enough to walk straight into the carrier. I closed it, took him into my car and back, where he was meowing the whole time. I feel bad because the poor guy has no idea what's happening, so it does put him under a good amount of stress. When I got back, I laid him down in the bathroom and tried to interact with him. I completely forgot how feral he was based off his looks because my man here looks stunning, and I paid the price for it.
I require healing.
I left Cream with a litter box, water, food, and wanted to see if studying his environment would be good for his anxiety. I returned to find out the answer was no. To break through to a feral kitten, you have to go through a process called socialization. I followed the Kitten Lady's video on how she does it, which helped so much. I'll be sure to link it in the description. The process she recommended was mainly forcing the cat to interact with you by petting and holding them close. She even added a little wobble for a nice soothing effect. As you guys could tell, Cream was thrilled with the idea. To touch Cream, I had to use a towel to protect my hand. He attacked the towel, realized it wasn't hurting me, then gave up. He still hissed, but petting him with the towel was the first steps of getting through to him. After a few minutes, I decided he deserved a break, and you could see the effects of socialization were already working. I decided that Cream being with his sister would help ease him a lot, so I left him, gave him some space, and headed out to kidnap the other one.
He pulls up into the school parking lot, and he's in a van, and he offers you
Friskies.
Ooh, I like
Friskies.
Cookies was a little hesitant and smarter than her brother, but still ended up falling for the oldest trick in the book. I want to point out that Peony was watching me the whole time and seemed totally okay with it. When I put them in the same room, they started to rely on each other for comfort immediately. These cats are really good together, as you could have guessed. Cookies went through the same motions as Cream, but a little lighter. Again, this makes sense. Cookies was always the social one, even as a stray, so for her to hiss less and attack less was predictable. I used the towel method on her and even wrapped her up and held her close. Needless to say, Cookies took these steps a lot better than Cream. I kept checking in on them every few minutes to get the same welcome every time, but you can't really blame the kitties. They woke up that morning ready to start the same usual routine in the wild with their mom and family, only for them to end up on Twitch.tv's Just Chatting section. Yeah, I let them rest up that night and ended up doing a stream the next day to show chat the cats were okay and hope to teach what socializing looked like. Cookies was becoming a little less guarded, while Cream kinda remained the same without hitting me as much, knowing that his attacks had little to no damage against my armor. Being able to share this with you guys was a lot of fun, and had some cute moments in the stream. Having these cats together was super important. They clearly trust each other. After the stream, another feeder came by to look at the cats and offer advice. My original plan was to keep them for one night and take them to our county, which deals with stray kittens a lot. But the feeder told me that they would immediately be put out into the adoption center without proper social care, making it harder for them to be adopted. I told her my situation and she ended up convincing my mother to let me keep the cats for just a little bit longer than one night. She also recommended that a great way to socialize them is to keep them in the room with me, and one amazing way to do this without them hiding or attacking me in my sleep was this bad boy, a playpen. She managed to get a playpen to put into my room, which was a huge help. I love this. Having the cats at the foot of my bed was a great idea. She said the cats would get used to my constant presence and noise that I make. The first night went well. Cookies was silent and would just stay still, probably afraid, and Cream wasn't as all scared to hiss at me directly, despite his confinement. The next day approached fast, and when I returned to my room, I discovered that Cream had escaped. I quickly discovered him hiding under my dresser and decided that he wasn't hurting anyone, and probably felt comfortable there. I left him out for a bit to where he moved underneath my bed, and then I put him back in the happy prison. Cookies was opening up, and even from the beginning, I figured she would be easier to get through than Cream. But to give Cream credit, he just hissed and tried climbing the playpen now and then, but didn't actually try to attack or scratch me. I call that progress. One night, I had a little issue sleeping because Cookies discovered the art of meowing at high volumes to get my attention, and Cream, who was quiet, was trying everything in his power to break the playpen from the inside, which included jumping to the roof and causing the playpen to collapse on itself. This happened now and then a few times to the point where I made a decision. I decided to let the cats out of the playpen and free roam that night. You may be wondering, Apo, what were you thinking? Those cats are dangerous and could hurt you. But I woke up totally fine. In fact, Cookies stayed in and Cream just went hiding. Cookies was always pretty passive with us. I could get to the point where I could pet her, but one day when I was minding my business, letting them roam, she came up to me, kneading in the blankets, which is usually a happy sign. I've also heard some people call this term making bread. Cookies does this a lot. Cookies is a total love bug who's addicting to mess with, and I'm glad at least one of the kitties was showing signs of not just being social, but being really good with people. I have to admit, this was crazy. It was a completely different scenario to have this stray cat who tolerated us when we fed her, to her being indoors and totally affectionate.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Cream was still being a tough kitty to break through, but still, he would only hiss and not attack. I'll take it. Oh, Cookies also likes to do this thing where she leans into your hand whether it's in front of her or above her, just unprompted. I remember one time Mookie was over and I showed him the playpen, how Cookies was opening up, and how we both tried to force Cream out of his comfort zone. It went decent. He was outside of the playpen, we didn't use a towel, and he was getting used to a human's touch.
Oh, Mookie!
Days went by and Cookies kept finding out new creative ways to knead that I've never seen any cat do, to the point where she started doing it on Cream's stomach. As these days went by, Cream became more explorative and one day started showing signs of being affectionate. The first reported case of this was from my sister. Feel free to make fun of her camera quality, but she does get him to roll on his stomach and seem comfortable in this video. How she does this without Cream shanking her is beyond me, but over time, I started to see it myself, to the point where I could not only pet the Creamster without him hissing, but to the point where he was showing signs of being happy. I know, it's hard to believe, and occasionally in the early stages you could see Cream even confusing himself, But this is the goal of socializing. These kittens were starting to be ready for adoption. Just like Cookies had her quirks with the kneading, over time I realized Cream had some of his own, such as the fact that this dude really loves belly rubs. I can't stress this enough, but Cream going from this to this still baffles me as I edit the footage. It was so great seeing these cats open up in just over a week. Cream, who I thought would be the background kitty, was shaping up to be one of my favorite cats I ever interacted with. His sister being just as strong as a contender. I never would have guessed they turned out like this from the first stream we did. I mean, I knew they would open up, but I don't know, I got to learn that they were total sweethearts at heart. Not too long after, I ended up doing my second and last stream with these two, showing our first case of socialized kittens. This is cool, because most of the channel was about feeding the stray cats. Maybe we'd get to pet them, see them change, whatever. But this was the first time me and the channel I worked on stepped out of those boundaries and helping the cat population more than just cracking open a can of Friskies. Cream and I got along pretty well, super well actually. I seriously thought about having distant family members adopt them so I could keep tabs on them. When you foster kittens, it's a well-known rule not to get attached, and for obvious reasons. I knew that going in. But you can see these two really broke through my defenses, Cream especially. I practically saw them as children and I was bringing them up myself. The best and most addicting part of this was seeing their personalities come out. Cookies started to be a little more distant as Cream opened up, not in a bad way, she just wanted to explore more. While Cream, who is now a people lover, would do everything short of chewing through your computer cables to get your attention. These cats were not the same cats that I brought in. They were better, more themselves, and that was kind of addicting and humbling to not just witness, but engage. I started to let them explore around the house, but I still kept them in my room. It was cool to see them check out the house, including the bathroom where they initially stayed at. They were different cats last time they were there. I began shifting over to next phase about how we were going to get them spayed, neutered, and then later adopted. Problem is, and I seriously underestimated this, but we are in a historical pandemic. And spay and neuter clinics have either shut down for a bit or raised their price by a considerable amount. My original plan was to take them to a place I volunteer for, but the lady said a virus had been going around with the cats and could not in good conscience risk these two, which was totally fair. I asked around other rescues or friends, but began to realize day by day and the pressure coming from my family that no place could take these cats, especially during the peak during kitten season. I got desperate and made a post on an indie website you guys may have never heard of called Facebook, in a community cat group from my local region. One group, by the name of Animal Aid, reached out. My family adopted Jetta, my sister's black cat, from them, and I liked their adoption process. So I went out to visit them. The car ride over to them was pretty hard and emotional, thinking this was it. I promised these two dudes that I'd look after their mother and sister, and I guess their dad or whatever. Turns out they needed their vaccines before engaging with the other cats, so they got vaccinated, and I had to wait an extra week, which I am not complaining about. Luckily, we got extra time. A week extra time, and that means even more footage to sit through and edit. How fun. Cream and Cookies love treats, as in this is their main motivator for everything. All I have to do is shake the jar and they're on it. They also love to play. They play with me as well, but love to play with each other. I also tried introducing them to the cats we had, which they reacted well with, while our normal house cats were more or less perplexed.
What the hell is even that?
A few more things I got to learn about them in the coming week is that Cream hates to be alone. Could be separation anxiety, which is something that cats have, and I've seen before, which doesn't mix well with the fact that Cookies is ready to dart at any given moment. Cream doesn't meow much. In fact, sometimes he tries, but nothing comes out. Yet, when he's alone without me or his sister, he can do an entire TED Talk.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Appreciate it.
In this final week, I noticed that Cookies is adventurous. She will bolt out the second I open the door and explore. She's a brave cat and always has been since the day we discovered her. And she enjoys the presence of people. Cream's personality was obviously a surprise. It took so much longer to get through to him, so for him to be the way he is now is a complete 180. I love these guys. I really do, and decided that I'd be getting a tattoo of their markings as my first tattoo ever. Then came the final day, in which I took Cookies and Cream to the shelter where they got checked in. They were also stinky, so I had to help bathe them when I was in, and one of the really cool staff members pointed out how sweet they were. Keep in mind that even in the carrier both times, or the bathing or getting shots, they didn't hiss, or fight, or resort back to their old feral ways. This is huge and meant I really got to break through to them. This was the next page to a long book of their complicated life, with the best parts ahead of them. The only thing that made me upset was that I wouldn't be a part of it. So yeah, this has to make for the weirdest and longest episode of Stray Cat Spotlight yet. And this is only video number 4, baby. But I'm glad you guys got to see these angels go from this to this. But I have a few more things I want to say. Another one of the reasons this video took longer to get out is that I didn't want to get into my feelings again or relive these happy moments, at least not yet. It hurt more than I ever thought it would to let them go. The night before, I remember having to sleep in my sister's room because they were so loud when they play and I had work the next morning. But just the next night after, I wouldn't have mind losing all my sleep if it meant they got to hang around. Don't judge me for what I'm about to say next, but on the way over to the adoption place, I really thought about just getting them both spayed and neutered and letting them remain stray cats. That way I didn't have to let them go. I could still visit them every day we each had on this earth, but I had to convince myself out of it, because that was selfish. The chance of these two being taken into a home where they never have to starve, be boiled in the Florida heat, or live in fear is so much better. Even now I'm editing this video and glancing to my right just to see an empty room, instead of either cookies or cream waiting with their paws tucked right by my arm. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful. I think I'll be forever grateful, not just for these two and the fact that I got to save them, but because I got to share them with all of you. I'm grateful I have some sort of platform to showcase them, and I'm sure you guys miss them as much as I do. Without Twitch, I wouldn't have hunted down for so many other colonies to make content out of, or been able to show my family that this was something worth doing. Thank you. A million times thank you. And not just from me, but from them too.